Yes, it is. Well, here we are
Yeah.
again. How's the wall coming at the
Oh,
roundabout?
they're not working on it today.
No.
It's uncovered, I guess. I barely have time to notice
Yeah.
through there.
It's gonna be nice, though. Actually.
Yeah. I still don't. I understand what they're doing where the cooking company used to be.
Mhm.
With taking the corner off that property. But I don't know what they're going to do about the gas station side.
I don't either. I haven't seen any indication there.
Is that was bad to begin with, as far as people coming in and out.
Yeah. When we used that gas station, we tended to go on through and come out the other side
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it was too dangerous coming out this side.
But the bridge seems to be done. Knock on wood.
I believe so.
I'm not getting any alerts anymore.
No, and able to get across with some
Yeah,
regularity.
yeah. It feels weird.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
keep coming down the hill and saying, "Please."
Yeah. I could understand that, certainly. But how's your knee doing?
The knee is doing okay. It's gradually getting better. I must have whacked it harder than I thought. I fell,
Yeah.
and it was just a little brush burn on the top. It didn't get bruised or anything, and I didn't feel anything at first.
Yeah.
But you I can still it's still swollen a bit, but probably. Yeah, I mean, my body clock is back, and I'm active and doing things, but I must have tapped into my energy reserves because they're still coming back.
Yeah.
So,
No, I can understand that.
we left Turkey. We got up at 5:15 in the morning and got to Boston 22 hours later, and then I drove home.
Oof.
So in effect, driving home at 3 or 4 in the morning after a 20 some hour. So that, I think that just took it out of me.
I would think so. Completely understandable. Well, come on, Jeff.
Oh, was this the week he was maybe going to get the satellite, or?
Yeah, I was thinking that. I don't know.
That's been going back and forth for a while now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he's been waiting for that, and he said it had finally gotten run through, and he was gonna see about joining it. Oh well.
Which city, town does he live in? Do you know?
I did, but I don't remember now.
No, you're on the Camera.
Yes, my camera on my computer is not working again. I do not understand the issue. Uh, it says I have the appropriate driver.
Does the camera on the computer work other than in Zoom? Do you know?
Oh yeah,
Oh.
not when, not now.
Oh, okay.
Um,
So it doesn't work,
it comes.
period.
Yeah, it does. It comes in. It works for a week or so, and then all of a sudden it's gone.
Yeah.
And
So it's not just connected to Zoom, it's the camera.
oh no, it's the camera, and it's related to the Microsoft updates.
Yeah.
Uh,
Morning.
Morning, Jeff.
Morning. How's everybody?
Good.
Good. Yeah. Are you recording?
Yes.
Okay.
Are you doing a little better, Jeff?
Yeah, I'm pretty good.
You get a little rest?
I am getting more, yes.
Good. That's
Thank you
important.
for asking. How did you do anything for your birthday?
My birthday?
I'm sorry?
He asked if I did anything. Are you asking me if I did anything?
Yeah, didn't you just have your birthday?
No, it's February 18th.
Oh, Facebook was saying that it was your birthday for some reason.
Well, don't believe Facebook.
It wouldn't be the first time, that's for
Nope.
sure. Okay, never mind.
So, um, I don't. You've got your back to it, and you probably have difficulty seeing, but there's a
Oh, the thing.
new calligraphy
Yeah.
back in the corner
Yeah,
here.
you mentioned it last Wednesday.
Oh, did I?
Yeah.
Yeah, Wednesday I did.
Yeah.
It's was part of a presentation to me by the teachers of World Tai Chi Day,
Oh,
and really nice.
Yeah.
It's by Lorelei Chang, and um, in translation, roughly it says, "Live long like the southern mountains." Um,
beautiful.
so it's really beautiful calligraphy. She's quite talented,
Yeah,
I think.
thanks for pointing that out. Very nice. I
And
wouldn't have noticed.
yeah, and if you ever
Although actually, to be honest, I usually don't see that part of the room anyways. But
Mm,
that's very nice now.
yeah, it's
It's right. Do you see where it is, Jeff?
Yeah, I do see it.
Yeah.
Yep, I do. I do see it right behind you.
Yeah.
um, the the
That way though.
presentation. What they had to say to me is
Oh.
over there. Should you ever want to want to
Oh,
look at it?
oh,
Yeah.
Standing up there. Okay.
Yeah. So
Hmm.
anyway, that was a surprise, and
Yeah.
Glad you won.
I felt very honored by it. The team show is very happy with you
Very.
guys today. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, questions, comments, reports, thoughts?
Working on my breathing. Just the same issues as before. Still trying to work the longevity breath into regular my regular practice on a regular basis without having to think about it constantly.
Yep.
And also trying to keep the breath, as I've mentioned before. I have that just inherent pause after my exhale before I start another inhale. I'm trying to keep that from interrupting the flow of my breath. And that, again, that's something that is still something I have to think about consciously to do while I'm practicing because I don't do it otherwise.
Yeah. It's a,
So,
that making a change like that takes a while.
yeah. I always think of the 100-day rule that we've always talked about with other things in our practice, but I think this is proving to be longer than that, partly because it's a little bit different. It's something I've been doing for all my life, probably,
Yep.
and also because I just don't get to practice every day of those 100 days. So it's gonna take a while before it's just a non-conscious thing. But I'm
Yeah.
trying to be aware of it, trying to work on it because I do notice a difference when I'm able to do that.
Good. Good. That is a good thing for you to work on.
Yeah, yeah,
Anything for you?
I've tried to focus on keeping my hands off the center line. I still look down and find them hanging out there. So that, that must have been built in over a long time. So
Hmm.
I have to, that and generally trying to keep my hands closer to my body so that I think when I have them farther out to form any posture, I tend to then reach and
Yeah.
they get even longer than they are to begin with.
I looked at the video from last week, and one of the things I felt for both of you was related to that, in that um, the the difference between moving from the elbow and moving from the back.
Yeah,
And it's a
uh,
huge difference energetically, and it's a really big difference in terms of the movement, and it will be one of the things that helps you keep the movement from getting too big. So that's really, uh, I think, an important piece to be aware of, a connection to be
mm,
aware of. Um, Jeff, you certainly need to keep working on bending and stretching and twisting. Although
right.
most of your bending and stretching is pretty good, but I notice that often the twisting disappears.
Yeah, way too much.
Yeah, yeah, um, and that is hard to have that sense that there is a constant little bit of rotation
Right,
of uh, so it's just part of the subtlety of this movement.
right.
Um, Letting go of that for a moment, going to the eight gates, how are you doing in terms of feeling the organs and the uh, um, energy centers as you?
I can feel the circulation of the energy. Um, not potently, maybe, but
Hmm.
I can feel it.
Yeah,
And as has been the case for a long time, I can feel it in my legs, which I take is kind of the wrong way or
no,
the unusual way
it's
around.
unusual, so but it's positive.
Yeah, yeah. So that and the organs, I'm still pretty much limited to the liver somewhat and the kidneys.
Hmm.
I can get the breath up into the heart area, but I'm not sure I'm at the point of massaging, you
Yeah.
know. So that's a stretch right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's but part of that is really focusing the longevity breathing.
Breathing, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
How about for you, Jeff?
I don't feel I've made a lot of progress there in terms of feeling and sensation and having control over improving the energy movement. A couple of the postures I feel I made a little bit of progress in lungs and heart, I would say, but the others I have not yet really noticed a difference, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, it's it's just going to take more practice, I think, and more focus and a lot more to Again, it's also working doing that longevity breathing and working it into that is still new to me. So I'm
Huh.
sure as I get better with that, I'll maybe have more of a chance of focusing on the energy to these specific organs and having more of a feeling for that.
Yeah. As you begin to be able to really feel each part of the longevity breathing, that really makes a difference in making those connections to the organs,
Mm,
um, particularly the ones that are pretty direct, liver and spleen and kidneys and heart.
mm,
Um, the the getting the sides to expand as you're as you're breathing is really critical for both spleen and liver and the kidneys, but particularly
mm,
spleen and liver. Um, and and obviously intent plays an important role in this because you're not probably going to feel a great deal of movement of the organ at this point, but you can feel the movement of the body as you breathe. So um, keep practicing.
mm. Yeah.
Do you have any question? Either of you have any questions about that practice?
No, if I'm being honest though, some years back,
Hmm.
mhm, we were doing longevity breathing in another class, and I had an incident where I breathed into the spleen and I overdid it, and I almost passed out in class. Um,
Huh.
Wow.
um, and I've been a little leery about going there
Uh huh.
since.
Mm,
So
I
don't
mean, it's
overdo.
yeah, yeah. I'm not.
mm,
I'm not sure what overdoing consists of, or
Trying too hard,
trying too hard.
and can understand that with the spleen because the spleen is probably the most difficult to feel
Mm,
of any of the organs because it's small
yeah,
and not very prominent, and so being aware of the spleen. So it's important that I mean, not trying too hard is really that is a factor
yeah,
because um, even with the breathing, the 70% rule applies, or maybe 80,
yeah,
but
yeah,
you can push it too far,
yeah,
and obviously that happened to you.
yeah. And I expect that you can push too far with any organ.
Yes,
Yes. Yeah,
absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely. So it's important to try to be aware and to feel, but not to not to push it. Um, it's interesting. I don't really know. I was sitting here trying to think, how do you define that in a way that
That
is
that
usable.
you have palpable,
And so I think, the first thing is to start with simply being able to feel the physical movement of the breathing. If you can literally feel each part of your sides moving, um, then it's affecting the liver or the spleen at that point, whether you are aware of it or not. Um, so part of it is really getting the longevity breathing to function clearly to you so that you can then use your intent to focus that breathing to the organ. Um, does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Does that raise any questions for you, Jeff?
When you say feel the breath in the sides and expanding and all, I'm trying to remember if you had mentioned that you actually get to a point where you can feel your rib cage expand a little bit with the energy. Is that something? Is
Absolutely.
that one of our goals in this?
Absolutely.
Okay, I thought so, and I do in terms of intent, I do envision that and that area just ever so slightly expanding as I'm trying to breathe into it. So I am working on that. I haven't really gotten there yet, but I'm that's what I'm where my intent is focused as I get there.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
um, one of the things is you're getting those intercostal muscles to expand and contract in there, and they're
Hmm.
obviously very small between each rib. But the movement is not big on the sides, but
Right,
it needs to be clear that you have some movement.
right.
So, um, why don't you go through the 8 gates and just see where you are with that, um, and really principally
Okay.
focusing on the breath, I think, but with the intent to reach the organ and the energy centers too. But really being aware of um, getting that longevity breathing to function well.
And I actually had a sort of question about practice. Are we, um, to what extent should we pulse at
So,
this point? Yeah.
so at this point, we're not particularly pulsing.
Okay.
Um, you can, but at the moment we're focusing on trying to get the breathing to be
Yeah.
really present,
Yeah.
and then you can combine that with the pulsing to move the energy more strongly.
Okay.
But I want you to really, really get the longevity breathing at the moment.
Yeah. Well, actually, I have been doing that, but occasionally I think, should I be?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. Good question. No question is bad. Okay?
Okay.
Such a sigh. So, questions or what came up while you were doing that?
I'm generally aware of one kind of thing or another when I'm doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
And this morning it was rootedness. I felt like, if I had stepped, I'd be taking the floor along with me.
Whoa,
I mean,
good.
there was a really strong sense of that.
Great.
Sometimes my attention to that almost pulls me away from what I want to be doing, which was
Mhm.
focusing on the breathing this morning. But I felt comfortable enough.
Mm-hmm.
I closed my eyes. Do you have anything to say about that?
Certainly at this stage, there's nothing wrong with closing your eyes because it does help you to not be distracted. Um, Ultimately, it is preferable to be able to not be distracted with your eyes open,
Yeah,
to be aware but not distracted.
yeah.
But as with um, meditation, for instance, we usually in both Taoist and Buddhist meditation, it's recommended to start out by closing your eyes, but ultimately to be most effective, you want to be able to do it with the eyes open.
Open or just slightly open.
Yeah.
Well, I see you sitting there taking notes, so no.
So, how did you feel about your breathing? So,
I lost track of it from time to time, but
Mhm.
I could certainly feel it out through the fingers, and obviously, if I'm rooted, there's a good amount of energy flowing down that way too. So
Mhm.
I am very slowly coming along with the by way, but compared to last year, yes, I feel,
Something.
something. Yes. Yeah.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
I think this came up maybe in the God's class. If I concentrate too much on, okay, it's moving up and down, it's moving this way, and rather than just energy circulating,
Mhm.
that impedes, it gets in the way. And I think that's probably one of the problems with the by way. I think I need to somehow shoot the energy up that way very deliberately, and I'm not sure that's the right approach.
You know, certainly in God's, you have the tools to do that. Um, Actually, we usually learn that in Marriage of Heaven and Earth, but
Yeah.
that's certainly God's.
Mm.
You're working on that too.
Yeah.
So I think the one thing I'd say for you in watching you is again to try to be really aware of principally moving the energy up and down the left and right channel,
Okay.
which means that in making transition, that it doesn't come into the center and out. It comes into the side channel and out, because that's where the principal movement is at this point.
Yeah.
It's also moving through the central channel, but we're focusing on the side channel.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for you, Jeff?
Couple things. Very, very interestingly, I found in this flow, for whatever reason, the same exact thing that Bill first mentioned was at the end of this flow, I felt extremely rooted and aware of it, whereas that's not a normal awareness, at least not anywhere near that strongly when I do this. I don't know if it's something you said to us today or not, but it's I had the same exact rooting sensation, much more so than usual. Um, I also I'm just continuing to find that when I have parts of this flow where I am in sync with my breathing and my twisting and moving from my scapula. I mean, it's I unfortunately I can't do all those at the same time throughout yet. But when I do find myself in sync with those, it's a great sensation, and I really am feeling more. So it's I guess previews of things to come that I'm feeling that at least on a limited basis now.
Mm-hmm.
So just wanted to mention that as well. I felt that several times during that particular flow.
Mm-hmm. I think that getting the longevity breathing to function well really
Mm-hmm.
contributes to rootedness,
Hmm.
because you are obviously beginning to move energy uh, more effectively, or at least allowing it to move. Um, and so that I think that's a very good indication. Absolutely. Um, so, any particular questions in the form? Um,
No.
okay. I think one of the things that's been in my mind um, is that one of the elements that we've talked about, but we haven't really focused on it very much, is lengthening. Um, and Bill's been exposed to a little deeper understanding of lengthening. I was thinking maybe I would at least mention that today so that um, one is aware of that, because we first talk about lengthening pretty much on a physical level. The sense that when we go into a posture, that there's a release, and that it's not just the energy going out, but that all the joints of the body are actually opening and expanding, and then they contract a little, and then they expand again. And one of the difficulties, certainly with the Wu style, is that there are places like that one where it's very quick and the movement is very small, um, and so we really have to um, keep keep working on that aspect. But when we talk about lengthening, we're not only talking about physical lengthening, we're talking about energetic lengthening as well. So we're we're referring to the yang energy going out, and then the yin energy coming in, and the yang energy out. And that's kind of the beginning stage of that if you can get that physical movement, or some awareness of that physical movement, it allows you to go on and allow the energy to lengthen as well. Um, and I'll just mention, although it's a more advanced stage and it's not really necessary, as a matter of fact, should not try to do it to begin with. And that is that arriving at a point where when you're lengthening out, that the yang energy is moving out both surfaces, not just the outside of the body. And when the yin energy comes in, it's coming in both surfaces, not just the yin side of the body. That's really, I just mentioning that that's one of the places eventually you would like to get to, where the flow is just complete. It's not out one and in the other. But you have to start with really beginning to feel those separate energies lengthening through the body. And part of that is that every single joint in the body is opening and closing and lengthening. And they open spherically. When we first talk about lengthening, we're really talking about it going out and in. We kind of think of it in this direction. But ultimately, each joint in the body is lengthening by virtue of a spherical opening. So, one of the things as you're thinking about lengthening is you can actually do it by really pausing at the point at which you are doing each movement. And so, for instance, you can get to Pung and you stop for a moment and feel, have you released? Is the energy flowing freely through all 10 fingers? Not 3 on this hand and 2 on this hand, but all 10. You can feel it on all 10, and ideally equally. And feeling it going through the feet at the same time, which is part of that rooting that you're feeling. And then even from, and this is a good place to work on this, doing the yin movement and feeling the energy come in all the fingers and feeling the bending in and the twisting in, and then feeling that going into the out, to the yang. So even just taking 1 or 2 postures and working on that, not trying to do the whole flow that way, because I don't think either of you has the time to do that or the time that you will do that. But you could do it with just taking 1 or 2 postures. And really trying to feel that movement, being really aware of it, because our tendency is, certainly in the yang movements, to tighten up, to push the energy out, and that's not what we are trying to do. We're trying to allow that energy to go. It's interesting. What suddenly came to my mind was remembering the various exercises that Rick Barrett has done in his workshops, in which you discover that releasing creates far more power than pushing. And it's a real surprise at first, because in order to really get to that, you have to release through the whole body. It's not just release the hands or release the arms, it's get everything in the whole body to release. And then all of a sudden it's there. Um, so lengthening is a really important element. I mean, bending and stretching are important too, but lengthening is also really important. And it's not, it's a little more difficult for us to access at first. Um, Questions?
I, while you were talking, I was
Playing.
and I find that when I lengthen in, I also tend to
Mm.
do that. You know, that's an instinct. You know.
Yep. Well, that's a good awareness,
Yeah.
because you realize that's something you have to let go of.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any,
Pulling my shoulders, Jeff. Yeah.
Okay.
any,
So just so I'm know that I'm understanding this element, we're focused on the joints, not the muscles and fascia and all that. That's bending and stretching more so, and twisting. This is really the lengthening is focusing on the joints from the fingers to the wrist to the arms to the elbow to the shoulders and all of that.
all the way to the feet, yes. Um,
Right.
and yes, eventually, it you want to be moving the energy through the fascia, and eventually right on down through several layers until you reach the bones. But we begin by feeling it at the skin level.
Right.
Um, so indeed, that's where you're beginning. But I didn't want you to think that that's as far as you need to be aware of.
Right. No, I'm just trying to differentiate in my mind the various elements that we, eventually want working all together, but we're work at one at a time usually. So I
Right.
want to, when I do work on lengthening, I want to make sure that my intent is in the right place and what I'm trying to do is the right thing physically and energetically.
Yeah. And
Okay.
clearly, beginning with being aware of what's happening between the spine and the fingertips is the easiest.
Mhm.
But both
Right.
of you had an experience today with a gates of feeling really rooted, which
Mhm.
indicates that there was considerable openness in your legs,
Huh.
which is
True.
terrific. That's great. You'd like to have that same rootedness when you're doing your Tai Chi.
Right.
So, let's. I'll tell you what. Let's just do two or three postures, and I'll do it with you, but I want you to. I'm going to tell you to pause and try to feel.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. as you're stepping out, as soon as you make contact, pause. And you should feel a lengthening in at this point. You've bent in, you've twisted in, and the energy is flowing in. And then as you continue to move into Pung and pause, feel that release. Is the energy flowing through all 10 fingers? And then continuing to rotate in, feel the energy coming in the yin surface and pause. So you're feeling everything coming in, bending in, twisting in, subtle, but it's there. And lengthening in. Release, that's a release in. It's not pull in, but release in. And then out and pause. Feel that sending out. Feel that it's coming from your spine all the way through to the fingertips. Try to feel the joints. And then drawing the energy in. Feel it flowing in. It's a different sensation than when it's flowing out. And then continue drawing it in even more. And then out. And feel the change. Feel what happens as the joints open and lengthen out. And then beginning to go to the right side, lengthening in and continuing in, and pause and feel the in. Feel how it's different than the out. And at the moment, it's coming in the yin surface of the arms. And then going out the yang surface. Feel how that's different from the in. And then go on to the in and pause and feel that. How is that different? And then out to the yang. And pause again. Feel that. Are your elbows open? Are your shoulders open? Are your scapula open? Is the energy flowing up to the top of your head and the bottom of your feet? And then drawing in and pause. Feel the energy coming in in from the fingers, in from the crown of the head, in from the feet. And then as you go to on, you draw in a little more, and then out. Feel the change. Feel the change. And then rotating, come in and pause. So feel the in. It's come in the yin surface, in from the fingertips, in through the elbows and shoulders. And then rotating and sending the energy out. And pause, feel that. And then turning, reset, in, and pause. The energy drawing in. Coming in the yin surfaces. Feel how that's different as you go to the yang, sending out the yang surface. Make sure you haven't developed tension. This is a release. Allowing the lengthening to go out, allowing the joints to expand. And so relax. So could you feel some of that?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Good.
Yeah, the fingers. I have the sense of the difference between one thing in and out, but I feel the energy kind of moving both ways. Yeah, not just. Okay, feel it moving in. I have a sense, it's not a great sense, but a sense of energy moving both directions on both surfaces all the time.
Well, it is, but you're trying to emphasize.
Yeah. The lengthening in and out. Yes.
Yeah.
My qua was engaged much more than usual.
Good.
The trouble loosening up my lumbar, which is,
Yeah.
not a big surprise, but that was the one area where I didn't feel I could open
Easily.
significantly, easily, So.
Good. Jeff?
Gonna have to work on it a bit. It's a new focus, and I gotta work on it some more. I don't know that I had any big breakthroughs or anything during that particular exercise, but it was good. and I'm glad you helped us stop at each one as far as the drawing in part and the releasing, and
Yeah.
it gives me some good direction to work on.
You know, if this is, um, I was taking you um, beyond a very basic step. So one of the things might be for you, Jeff. I don't know, but I'll just throw this out that
Mm.
not being concerned about particularly feeling the yin and yang surface flows of the energy, but beginning with just trying to feel that release
Mm.
and then the release in
Right.
and the release out. And how is that different? And the same.
Yeah, and I do, and I do need to allow the release to happen instead of making it happen.
Yep.
That was an awareness I realized during that, and you mentioned it a few times, which helped me to realize that. But so please keep mentioning that because otherwise, I do have a tendency to sometimes try and, with my intent, move the energy rather
Yeah.
than just releasing the joints and releasing everything and letting the energy go.
Yep. I
That's
mean, mind intent is important. I'm not certainly would not
yeah,
um, suggest otherwise, but it is. This is a really important piece, and it is part of what will help, I think, to clarify the connection all the way through the body. Um, because you'll find that if you just release from the elbows, you get a little something. But if you release through the shoulders, it's a little more. And if you go through the scapula to the spine, suddenly it's a lot more energy flowing. So each step of that um, it increases the amount of energy that can flow and that you can be aware of.
Yeah, it was very valuable for me to not only go slow and not only stop and monitor, but also it allowed me to keep my hands from
Yes.
reaching,
Yep.
and therefore I had to feel whatever I was going to feel from back here,
Yep. Good.
rather than say, okay.
Yeah. Yep. So I think that's all I'm going to do today. Seems to me that's
Well, that would be a big step to take.
yeah, that's a lot. Um, so
mm,
take it home and practice it as much as you can, and you don't have to limit yourself just to those three postures that we did. You can pick two or three others elsewhere in the form and work on it. That's fine. I don't think it. Um, these are good ones, but uh, there are lots of others. So
right.
don't feel you have to only do those three postures. Um, play with whatever.
Mm, okay.
Okay, great.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So have a great 24 hours.
24 hours.
Or a week.
Yeah.
23 hours.
Yeah, at this point.
All right. You guys have a good week. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything happening with your hi-fi, Wi-Fi?
I actually got to go online. I've got the site and the information and all. I've got to go there and figure out how to sign up for the plan and whatever introductory offers they have and all that. So that's actually on my agenda today, is to try and sign up for that and figure out how to do that and how to get a date to have it installed and all of that. So
Yeah.
that's my next step. Yes.
It being new, there may be a lot of people getting it installed, so it might take a little bit.
Yeah, maybe. I haven't seen the truck other than, I mean, they did. I live in a community where there's a lot of houses, probably a couple hundred houses in this entire community, and they installed the in-ground main lines throughout the whole thing. It took them weeks to do, so it's a major, major
Uh-huh.
process, and it's state of the art AT&T fiber. So I think they're planning on getting as many people online as quickly as possible to start getting some income from this.
I'm
So
sure.
I'm hoping that once I sign up, it won't take long for them to get out here and do it. But
Yeah.
I've got to go. I've got to do that and go to the site and all that today and figure out how to do it. But
Yeah.
it's high on my priority list, that's for sure.
Yeah. Good. Good.
Because the other thing, when you have satellite internet like I have, and you live in Florida, well, this time of the year we have rainstorms, for an hour almost every afternoon or evening, and when that happens, I lose my internet because it's satellite, and I lose connection to the sky. So that's even more annoying than this. If
Yeah.
I'm working or doing other things, or especially when there's three of us here in the house who are doing
Yeah.
various things, and we have no internet for an hour. It's not. It was never ideal. It was. I only did it initially because it was the only thing I can get quickly when I moved in, and my plans fell through because I originally had it signed up for whatever the other service I had, and then I got here and they were supposed to come out that day, and we don't area.
Oh.
Why didn't you tell me that when I signed up for it? So that's the only reason I got this satellite in the first place. It was emergency, and they were the only ones who can come out the next day because I had to use it for work and everything else. But
Yeah.
anyways, it's been a year, and it was the universe has answered my prayers by having AT&T come out and install all this state of the art fiber cable and all that. So
Yeah.
now I'm at the stage where I'm going to go today and try and get it set up to have them come out here as soon as possible and hook it
Yeah.
up and find out the plan that we need, because apparently they offer various speeds, 100 megs and 300 and 500, and so I got to look at all that also.
Yeah.
But
Well, I'm sure it will be a big improvement for you.
uh, it will be a major improvement in all areas, so it will be nice. Now, additionally, the quality of the picture and the connection and everything too.
Yeah.
It's
Yep.
this. It's like when I want to watch streaming TV, I've got a nice TV downstairs, but I've got lousy connection, so the quality is like, you know, it's wasted. So,
Yeah.
but anyways, I'm hoping within a week or two I will have a brand new server and everything will be great. So
Good.
we shall see.
Good luck.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Take care,
Take care.
guys. I'll see you next week.
And we'll see you tomorrow morning.
Excellent.
Shall I lock?
Please do.
Okay.
Well, it didn't look